Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador stated that if the U.S. excludes some countries from the Summit of the Americas, he will not attend the multilateral meeting and will send a diplomatic representation instead. Groups of ex-military personnel acknowledged their responsibility in the massacre known as false positives, where 19 young people from the municipality of Soacha and Bogotá were murdered. The United Nations organization announced that it has credible information about the torture of Russian prisoners by the Ukrainian militias. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm your anchor Gladys Quesada from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Now we begin. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said on Tuesday he will not attend the United States-host Summit of the Americas if all countries in the region were not invited, and will send Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard in his place. The Mexican head of state said during his regular news conference that his absence at the summit in Los Angeles next month was unlikely to cause tensions with the United States. This is López Obrador's strongest stance yet in these efforts to get the United States to extend invitations to all of the region's governments. López Obrador, who visited Central America and the Caribbean in recent days, emphasized his wish to be invited, while visiting the country on Sunday, also saying he will continue to push for the U.S. to lift its embargo against Cuba.
I'm going to say, if an exclusion, if not everyone is invited, a representation of the government of Mexico will go, but I would not go. I would be represented by the foreign minister, Marcelo, because I don't want the same policy to continue in America. And I want, in fact, to validate independence, sovereignty, and to manifest myself for universal fraternity. We're not for confrontation.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador also said that the attendance at the Summit of the Americas has not been resolved yet, and that Mexico seeks the unity of all the Americas.
We have not yet decided on the participation in the Los Angeles Summit, because we are proposing that no one be excluded, because we are seeking the unity of all America, and we feel that there should be no confrontation, that even with the differences, we have to dialogue and unite all Americans.
And in Mexico, groups searching for missing persons from several states of the country participate this May 10th in the March of National Dignity to demand a response from the authorities of the whereabouts of their relatives. Those groups are urging people not to remain silent and to get involved in order to confront them to other pandemic, which is disappearance of the people. The march, led by the mothers who have lost their children, started at around 10 a.m. local time at the Monument to the Mother in Mexico City to reach the Angel of Independence. March organizers have made a call for unity in the face of the growing violence and disappearances of people occurring in the country due to the lack of proper action by the Mexican government. In a national address, which was broadcast earlier on Tuesday, Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris said he has always been driven by the belief that politics is about people and putting policies in place to ensure that their lives are better. He also referred to the strange and irrational behavior by certain members of the People's Action Movement, the PAM, and Concerned Citizens Movement, the ZZM.
It is my duty to inform you that since the submission of the undated letter to His Excellency the Governor General, which he received on April 21st, none of the CCM representatives and only one of the PAM representatives have attended any meeting of the Cabinet, which continues to function effectively. While others neglected their duty, failed to attend Cabinet meetings, I must commend the members of Cabinet who continue to show great respect for the institution of the Cabinet and for giving yeoman's service to their country. We have been focused on delivering for you, our people. As Prime Minister and Chairman of the Cabinet, I have listened to our citizens and residents lament about this irresponsible and flagrant disregard for their sworn duty to the Cabinet.
During his official release, the Prime Minister also informed that citizens that Parliament will be dissolved effective as May 10, 2022.
Fellow citizens and residents, throughout my time in public life, I have always been driven by the belief that politics is about people. It's about delivering for the people and putting in place policies that make their lives better. Our nation can have a bright and wonderful future. Yes, our future can be stronger and safer if those of us in public life commit to putting country above self. Unfortunately, over the past few months, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have been subjected to increasingly strange and irrational behavior by certain members of the People's Action Movement PAM and the Concerned Citizens Movement CCM. These events commence with the convention of the People's Action Movement.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. We are back. Former Colombian military officers acknowledged this Tuesday before the transitional justice system the responsibility in the fake of positives occur in Bogota and Soacha. On this occasion, the Special Jurisdiction for Peace summoned high-ranking military officers involved in the murders of 14 innocent citizens in Soacha and 5 in Bogota to give their account. These members of the military availed themselves of the opportunity that the Transitional Tribunal gives them to tell what they know about these crimes in exchange for legal guarantees. According to what the Special Jurisdiction for Peace has been able to document, in Colombia there is evidence of 6,402 cases of extrajudicial executions in at least 31 departments of the country. Attending this hearing was General Paulino Coronado, who has been identified as one of the most responsible for extrajudicial executions. Human rights organizations warned of forced displacements in several departments due to an armed strike by paramilitary groups. According to official sources, on Monday night, hundreds of residents of Carmen del Darién in the department of Chocó fled their homes due to a threat of attack by the Gulf Clan on a police station. The community fears that members of the paramilitary group who remain in the area will retaliate against the police and that they will be caught in the crossfire. Although in an official report issued on Monday, the government implied a return to normalcy in the areas affected by the armed strike, in El Carmen del Darién, people's fear remains intact in the face of a possible new attack against this population in the Chocoan jungle. In Cuba, rescue teams continue to work non-stop, one clear mandate: the rescue of the 3 people still missing in the Saratoga hotel accident. On the 4th day of work at the hotel in Havana, President Díaz-Canel met with the temporary government group that is assessing the actions to be taken. Health authorities report that a total of 96 people were injured, 17 of whom are still being treated at the hospitals, 4 of them in critical condition. So far, the death toll of the devastating accident stands at 42. The Cuban president insisted on the attention to detail for the victims of the accident and their families, referring to the necessary psychological support. The head of the fire department, Colonel Luis Carlos Guzman, explained that the work of removing debris and rescuing victims is being carried out without interruption and will not be concluded until the last person who could remain trapped has been found. China's President Xi Jinping expressed his solidarity with the people of Cuba and his Cuban counterpart Miguel Díaz-Canel for the recent explosion and partial collapse of the Saratoga Hotel in Havana. The president regretted what happened through a letter, saying that he was in total dismay over what happened last Friday, May the 6th. The Chinese president expressed his condolences on behalf of the people to all the families of the victims and the injured in the tragedy. And China criticized the United States for excluding countries from the Summit of the Americas. Zhao Lijian, spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, supported the position defended by the President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, in favor of holding the Summit of the Americas with the participation of all the countries of the region. Lijian also said that the United States should respect the sovereignty and dignity of the countries of that region in accordance with the basic rules of international relations. He deplored that almost 200 years after proposing the Monroe Doctrine, the White House continues to act under the principle of America only for the United States and also treats Latin American and Caribbean territories as its backyard. And the Chinese President Xi Jinping held a phone conversation with French President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday to promote the development of China-France relations and agreed that all parties concerned should support Russia and Ukraine in restoring peace through negotiations. Xi called on the two sides to step up cooperation in artificial intelligence, clean energy, civilian nuclear energy, aviation and aerospace. The Chinese president also said that the two sides should follow true multilateralism, uphold the international system with the United Nations and the international order based on international law, support world multipolarization and economic globalization, and deepen cooperation on dealing with climate change and protecting biodiversity. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. We are back with more information. Matilde Bogner, the head of the United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine, said there is credible information regarding the mistreatment of Russian prisoners by Ukrainian troops during the military operation there. Bogner said on Tuesday the mission received credible information of torture, ill treatment, and incommunicate detention by Ukrainian armed forces of prisoners of war belonging to the Russian armed forces and affiliated armed groups. The inhumane treatment is occurring among captured soldiers as they are being coerced to make statements, apologize and confessions, and other forms of humiliation, which violates fundamental rules of international humanitarian law. The head of the monitoring mission stated that the best way to end the violations will be to end the hostilities.
We have received credible information of torture, ill treatment and incommunicado detention by Ukrainian armed forces of prisoners of war belonging to the Russian armed forces and affiliated armed groups. We continue to see the publication of videos which show inhumane treatment, including prisoners from both sides being coerced to make statements, apologies and confessions, and other forms of humiliation. This violates fundamental rules of international humanitarian law. Ukraine and Russia must promptly and effectively investigate all allegations of torture and ill treatment of prisoners of war. They must also effectively control and instruct their forces to stop further violations from occurring.
On Tuesday, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made an unannounced visit to Algeria to mark 60 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Lavrov held talks with Algeria's Foreign Minister Ramnane Lamrara and attended a wreath-laying ceremony at a monument to heroes of the 1954 to 1962 Algerian War of Independence against France. It was unclear whether the conflict in Ukraine was discussed during the meeting. At a news conference, Lavrov praised Algeria's position on the conflict. He also criticized the EU chief Joseph Borrell, who called for the seizure of frozen Russian assets to rebuild Ukraine. Lavrov announced Russia and Algeria intend to sign an agreement reflecting the new quality of bilateral relations, and also said the Russian president hopes to meet with the Algerian president and extend an invitation to him to visit Russia.
As far as the Algerian position on the Ukrainian issue is concerned, I had already expressed our high respect for this position. We especially noted the understanding of our Algerian friends about the whole complex of problems that are strong on the current situation in Ukrainian territory.
And in Sri Lanka, mobilizations continue, defying the 36-hour curfew throughout the country. Several hundred demonstrators continue to chant slogans against the government. According to press reports, some people attacked the homes of government supporters, but the violence had erupted on Monday had largely subsided. 8 people have been killed so far, including a ruling party lawmaker and 2 police officers, and 229 wounded due to violence, according to Defense Ministry sources. The plaintiffs are demanding the resignation of the president, who they blame for the critical economic situation. And about 1,000 women protested in the Afghan capital on Tuesday against the Taliban's new edict that enforces females to fully cover their faces and bodies when in public. Afghanistan's supreme leader and Taliban chief Hibatullah Akhundinejad issued a mandate over the weekend ordering women to cover up fully, ideally with the traditional all-covering burqa. The decree was the latest in a series of restrictions in the country, where the Islamists have rolled back the achievements made by women after a United States-led invasion that overthrew the first Taliban regime in 2001. The demonstrators also indicated their objection to trading the less restrictive hijab headscarf for the totally concealing burqa. After a short procession, the march was halted by Taliban fighters, who also obstructed journalists from reporting on the event.
We have organized this protest movement because of the forced hijab that has been imposed on the people of Afghanistan, especially the women of Afghanistan, from the address of the Taliban group. If they do not cause us any problems, we will go to the door of the Taliban Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice from here and raise our voices. All our slogans are based on Islamic values and in accordance with the cultural values of the Afghan people. These slogans are not against Islam and the beliefs of the Afghan people.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.